Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Hump Day edition of the Yard. Guys, we're in the college baseball frenzy right now. Just a few days left in the regular season. It's a very exciting time of year, especially for us because we're playing meaningful baseball here in the month of May. It's so interesting. You look back at this time last year, we're getting ready to play Texas A&M. Hey, we win the series, we go to Hoover, and even that, we'd have to go to Hoover and win the tournament to get to an NCAA regional. And now here we are a year later. You take care of business this weekend, you're hosting a regional. You don't take care of business this weekend, you're still in a regional. You're still in the field at Hoover. There's a lot to unpack, for sure. But it's proof positive that Mississippi State is on their way back to where we should be and always be. Listen, I get it. Sometimes you have a down year, but what our fans, our players, our program, our coaches have endured the last 2 years is very unbecoming for Mississippi State. It's not anything that we're going to ever get comfortable with. We're never going to sit back and say, well, it's okay. After 2022, you said, well, we won it in 21 and had a little bit of a hangover. And while nobody will ever admit it, I truly believe that we were maybe a little bit too I don't know, maybe nostalgic, maybe too committed to some guys that couldn't play here. But it's like, you know what? I don't want to run those guys off. I just want a national championship with them. And so I understand that aspect of it. But we certainly should have been more aggressive in the portal going into the 2023 season. We should have been. We were somewhat aggressive this year. Things didn't go the way as they probably could have. I mean, goodness, if this team had Braden Montgomery and Luke Holtman, we'd be a top 8 national seed, maybe the top seed. Yeah, I mean, think about that, right? And that was one of the concerns. Many of you had the same concerns. It's like, Steve, I don't know we did enough in the portal to really get us to where we want to be because we didn't really get, a couple true weekend starters, and that was really one of the goals. When I got Carson Ligon, and he's had some flashes for us, but hasn't been a real threat to a starting weekend rotation spot. You go get Cal Steven. A lot of people kind of panned that and said, this guy's a mediocre pitcher from a mediocre team, playing in a mediocre league, and then he's come up here and absolutely shoved. Of course, big news last night is Nate Dome back on the mound. We'll talk about that here in our first segment. But it's interesting. I asked Chris Simonis about this last night. The last couple of years, as we get into the month of May, we start losing pieces, right? And here we are this year kind of getting some pieces back. You went out and got Logan Kohler last year. We expected him to be a double-digit home run guy. And now all of a sudden here in the month of May, he looks like the offensive player we hoped he would be. Now defensively, he's been really good. He's had a couple moments, but yeah. We're one of the top defensive teams in the country. He's a big part of that. Him and Dave Mershon have completely changed the left side of the infield. Completely. And Dylan Kopp, too, for that matter. When he's been healthy, he was outstanding defensively. But now all of a sudden, Logan Kohler's starting to swing a pretty good bat. And you look at what Joe Powell has done here in the last few days. And Joe said in postgame last night, I made a little bit of an adjustment to my swing. Yeah, well, Joe, let's keep that. Right? But now all of a sudden, Joe Powell's getting hot. Logan Kohler's getting hot. Pico Cohn is getting hot. Pico went out and had a fantastic outing against Arkansas. And so you're playing for the postseason. And now all of a sudden, Pico Cohn, a guy that you thought 2 years ago was going to be a guy that would factor into your rotation on the weekends in 2023. And, of course, he misses the year, and he comes back and has worked exceptionally hard to get back, because everybody always says, hey, it's a full year, and then you never know how things are going to go. And granted, Pico has been somewhat limited, but he went out there and shoved on Sunday against Arkansas. Truly did. And so now you start thinking about, instead of you having to kind of stress and figure out how this is going to work out, now all of a sudden Pico becomes a real option for you on the weekends, if not a starter in long relief. And all of a sudden, Nate Dome begins to kind of rally back. And it's like people are like, oh, is he going to pitch this weekend? I don't expect him to pitch this weekend, okay? And nor should we expect that. You get him out there, get him comfortable again, and some of this is just a confidence issue. I mean, right, like his velo and his fastball was down a couple miles. That's just being back out there for the first time in a while. You got to learn to trust it. You know, and I'm a guy that came back from injury too, and I can tell you it's the mental aspect of it sometimes is more difficult than the physical aspect of it because you have to learn to trust your body again. But Nate's going to be fine. So again, we're trending toward the postseason, and now you're beginning to add some pieces that could prolong the postseason. And I think you got to feel good about that. Now, there were some times last night in that ball game against North Alabama we didn't feel especially sporty. But what a great night for Joe Powell. Hey, let's take some time to thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of this show. And, man, I love Bulldog Burger Company. There are a lot of places that I like to eat. I love going to Bulldog Burger Company. I do. And it's not just because I get those Fountain of Youth spring rolls, which is a nice bonus. It really is. Get the spring rolls as your appetizers to make you and everybody around you better looking. But it's the variety of selection on the menu. There are some places I go and I think, you know, it's the same thing every time. When I go to Bulldog Burger Company, sometimes I feel like a great restaurant quality hamburger. I do. And that's typically the case. Other times I'm thinking, you know what? These chicken bacon ranch sliders are great. These sloppy Joe sliders are great. And maybe I feel like eating fresh today, so I'm going to have that BLT salad. I like it grilled. You may like it fried. I'm not judging. I'm from South Mississippi. It's a requirement you get ranch dressing, and I do. And I also like that chocolate shake to go. There's just so many great options. It's like composing your own symphony of taste when you go to Bulldog Burger Company. Now, if you're a newbie, I'm going to encourage you, get the Bulldog first. Start there. Start there. Because you just simply can't go wrong with the Bulldog Burger, the signature burger of this place. You can't go wrong. And then the next time, let's walk on the wild side a little bit. Let's consider the Smokehouse, the Freshman 15, the Pimentology, the Mission. When I get the Mission, I get the pico de gallo on the side. You know, I can't stand uncooked onions. I can't. Maybe you like them. I don't. I'll be sick all day if I eat one. But all that I understood, I know when I put my feet under their table, I'm going to leave satisfied. Not just with the meal, but with the quality of service, the pricing, the portions. It is a fabulous place to break bread, whether you're doing it with friends or family, work colleagues, whatever. I don't know your routine, but I know this. If it doesn't include Bulldog Burger Company, you're doing life wrong. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. All right, let's break down this game. A lot of discussion. Should we play the game? Should we not play the game? And it really wasn't about a fear of losing, though there was a time yesterday that I got a little bit anxious. I'm not going to lie. But it's about what it could do to our RPI. Now, the dust is kind of settled. And Mark Etheridge, a guy that I love and respect. Mark has an amazing story, an absolutely amazing story. And I don't just mean as a professional. I mean as a person. And when I have questions like about Alabama, and sometimes I bounce some ideas off him, I love seeing those guys from D1 baseball. They are my friends. But Mark Etheridge was kind of projecting that just playing North Alabama could drop our RPI 7 or 8 spots, which could really make it difficult for us to host. Well, now that the dust settled, we only dropped 2 spots, RPI of 18. And so now you go into the weekend, you start thinking you win the series, you're going to remain in the teens. You sweep the series, good chance you move into the top 16. So it's all within our reach. We control our own destiny when it comes to this hosting thing. We don't have to sit around and wait for help. Now, if we only get 2 wins this weekend, we may need some help. Now, the good thing is a lot of those teams that we're competing against have very difficult series. Like South Carolina, who got swept last weekend by Georgia. Yeah, they're going to Lindsey Nelson in Tennessee this weekend. Yeah. Do you think they're going to win that series? I would say no. They're behind State in the RPI, behind State in the standings. It would be a very difficult scenario to pick South Carolina over Mississippi State to host, if things go as we expect. But again, so we play the game, and again, it was so crazy. We're getting ready to play, and we go into weather delay. And I'm thinking, are we playing games here? What's happening? It's sunny outside. What are we doing? Well, there's some rain north of Starkville. I get the radar out. It's like even north of Tupelo. And so I think maybe we're being had here for a second. I even called the bride, and I'm like, surely you don't think we'd make these kids come all the way over here and get dressed and warm up just to cancel a game. Of course we didn't. But I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart. I am. makes me a good researcher and investigator. That's what I tell myself anyway. But, the game, we played the game, and let's break it down here real quick here. Interesting, too, a lot of SEC officials on the field during this ball game, including Jeff Head. All right, so we get going here, and Nate Dome on the mound. And we knew it was going to be an abbreviated start. You don't bring him back and, hey, let's see if we can go get 7 against North Alabama. It was, he was on a pitch count. I believe it was 2 innings or 40 pitches, kind of whatever comes first, something around there. But Nate's been pitching. He just hadn't pitched in games. And a lot of our fans were like, we needed him this weekend. And I agree. That said, I don't know if putting him back out there in a high-leverage situation until he's fully ready mentally is the right way to go. Arguably the most competitive guy we got on the team. Because you know what Nate's going to do, right? If Nate gets in a ball game, Nate's going to do everything he can to win that game for Mississippi State because he is just wired that way. And so I think getting him against North Alabama in somewhat of a controlled environment where it's not a high-leverage situation, it's just good for him. That way he can just, instead of just focusing on hitters, he can focus on his mechanics, and he can focus on making sure that he's trusting himself. You don't want a guy second-guessing himself on the road in a rubber game in the SEC. You just don't. You want to get Nate back. And, again, we're playing for the postseason, thank God. All right, so here we go. Top of first, and Nate gets the first guy on 3 pitches swinging. That's the leadoff hitter, guys. Garrick Fry, really good player for them, flies out to right field for the second out. And then Machado, really good player too. I was very impressed with him defensively. And let me get on a soapbox here for just a second, if I can. And there's a lot of people out there that love baseball that don't know baseball. And I know a little of it. I do. And what I would say is Kyle Machado, here's what impressed me about him. He took some good swings. He really did. But his play at first base on the pickoffs. Now, granted, they didn't pick anybody off. That said, if they would have, it would have been because of Machado. One of the things that is so difficult for young first basemen to understand is to let the ball travel. The ball is going to get there faster than you can grab it and stick it. You let the ball travel. And I watched Machado yesterday, and I turned to Mike Nemeth. I said, that guy is really well coached. Because how many times we throw over to first base, and it's almost like it's a grounder coming in, a throw coming in from third, right? We catch it way out in front, and just the process of catching it stops the progress of the baseball, and then we sling a tag down. Let the ball travel. You catch it as late as you possibly can, and then in the flow of catching it, then you apply a tag. I thought he was remarkable. I thought he was very polished. I was very surprised and impressed. But, a little coaching tip there for you. For you young people out there, you first basemen out there, let the ball travel. You hear that in the hitting exercise all the time, let the ball travel. It's the same way on a pickoff at first. The ball is moving faster than you are. Let the ball travel. All right, bottom of first, State goes right to work here, and I really felt like we kind of let them off the hook here in the bottom of 1. Bryce Chance singles up the middle, then goes to second on a wild pitch and third on a pass ball. And then Dave Mershon just kind of barrels one up. Really good job of hitting it here, not trying to do too much. Just go back up the box. It's an RBI single. It's 1-0. Well, then DJ strikes out looking. And Mershon goes second on a wild pitch, do all that. And then they try to pick him off. They throw it in the second and in the outfield. So now you've got a runner at third with less than 2 outs. We have to get this run home. It's good baseball, right? You got to get a productive out here. And Hunter strikes out swinging. And then Larry flies out to left on a 2-0 pitch. And so, again, we can get into the minutia of baseball, and people would say, well, Steve, those are just details. Well, this is the fabric you're creating here. Right? You can't leave holes in the quilt. And we left one here. And especially considering how bad they were struggling just with the battery. You ought to be able to steal bases. They're giving you free bases. They're allowing you to go into scoring position. And you go back and look here in hindsight, and you get 2 hits in the inning, and you get the 1 run. And the 2 hits came from Chance and Mershon. Now, I go back to the weekend that we had at Arkansas. And I think it's taken a while for Bryce to get comfortable up there. He struck out a couple times yesterday. But my point being is that You're beginning to see the table set with greater regularity. You're beginning to see DJ and Hunter be able to hit with guys in front of them. And so the composition of a lineup sometimes is a season-long affair. But I believe we've kind of found some things. I know some people out there, Bryce Chance haters, and I'm not going to sit here and say I get it. I think he has been a very, very good addition at the top of the order. Kind of has a two-hole hitter's mentality. But I love the fact that you have, Marshawn behind him because Dave can bunt. Nevertheless, it is a 1-0 ball game after one, and again, it feels like, kind of a wasted opportunity. Nate back on the bump. 1-2-3 inning. Knight flies out to left. Johnson strikes out swinging, and then Lane out at first. Kind of a, one of those things here, kind of a wild play here, but nevertheless, we get out of it. So Nate Daum, 2 innings, 22 innings pitched. A couple of punch-outs, no hits, no walks, no runs, and a lot of very relieved Mississippi State fans. They didn't make the box score, but knowing that the 25 is back just in time for us to begin postseason. You all saw him walk off the mound against Georgia. We were all pumped up when he saw that he was going to start, and all of a sudden he doesn't even make it through the first inning, and he walks off, and many people are like, well, that's probably it. That's how you felt. And, of course, my sources on the matter continue to say, no, we're just going to be careful and take our time here. And that worked out for us. But when he walked off the mound against Georgia, I think we all felt like, he's never going to be the same. And now all of a sudden he goes out here and has a really good outing. Really good outing. A lot of hope of what Nate Daum can bring down the stretch. Because how many times have we looked at it? We just been a pitcher short, an inning short. Maybe Nate can fill that role for you. All right, bottom of second, State goes 1-2-3. Kohlrich strikes out swinging after a lengthy at-bat. Pulliam grounds out to second, and then Michael O'Brien starting last night. And everybody's worried. Connor Hyzak was held last night out as a precaution. You don't want to run the risk of a reoccurrence in a game against North Alabama. So O'Brien gets in the ball game. A guy that we're really excited about, too. One of our better outfielder defenders, believe it or not. Good player. So he grounds out 1-2-3. Top of third, Colby Holcomb comes in. And I thought Colby had, at times, especially this first inning, I thought he was pretty nasty. McIntyre goes down swinging. Loving flies out to right. And Jenkins strikes out looking on 3 pitches. Colby looked good. He was spotting a changeup a little bit, keeping people off the fastball. Looked good. Bottom of third, pardon me. Joe Powell, first pitch of the inning. It is a Ruthian blast to left field. His second home run in as many games. You're thinking, where's this guy been? Yeah, with his weight. But then Bryce Chance strikes out looking on a full count, and he just got completely fooled there. And Bryce is good enough with the stick. We probably should have spoiled the pitch. And then Marshawn walks. So this is how this inning begins. Solo home run, borderline strikeout, and then a walk. And so it's pretty clear Stogner was done. They bring in Battle, and then he gets DJ to fly out to center, and Hines strikes out swinging. We're going to have to get 3 and 4 rolling. And that's not a hot take. You all see it, too. We got to get DJ and Hunter both hot at the same time if we're going to make a real run postseason. All right, Holcomb back in for the fourth. And Cook, the leadoff hitter, actually gets in a 2-2 count here, fouls the ball back and then doesn't chase, and then just kind of runs into one, and it's a home run to left center. Now it's a 2-1 ball game, and right now people are kind of wincing like, I don't want to be in this grind of a game with North Alabama. And also, too, you're thinking, we really need Holcomb to kind of find something. And then here we are, we give Solo a shot. And it hadn't been the year that he had hoped. And I can tell you guys in the fall, he was outstanding. We get into spring training, he is great again. And then something happened. His last outing in the spring just wasn't good. And it hadn't been the same ever since. He's had some good moments, but more times than not, he's left some balls up trying to overthrow and been hit pretty hard. Need him to figure some things out. All right, then Fry strikes out looking. Machado grounds back to the pitcher. This was that great play by Colby, that kind of that backhanded just stab. Kind of a crazy play there, for sure. You don't see that very often. Then Knight flies out to center field. So outside of the solo home run, Colby retires the rest of the order in stride. All right, bottom of 4 here. Again, it's locked up at 2-1 here. Amani pops up to the first baseman. Kohler flies out to left. And then Pulliam doubles to left field. It's good to see the freshman still getting some at-bats, but also now getting some extra base hits. O'Brien then walks, and then Powell singles to the left side to load the bases. Joe Powell, the man of the hour here. And so it's a 2-out rally with top of the order coming up. And here again, I'm thinking, you know what? Just give me a single into some green grass somewhere, and it's 2 runs. And Bryce strikes out swinging. Again, it's a rarity. It's a rarity that he strikes out, but 2 times in a ball game, it's tough. I'm not down on Bryce Chance at all, but that was a really big at-bat right there and a chance for us to really get some separation here in the middle innings. And Bryce knows that too. You don't need me to tell you that. Bryce knows. North Alabama now in the 5th. We bring in Luke Dodson in place of Holcomb. He gets Johnson to fly out to center. They have the single down the third base line here, and they call him out. And I really thought, this is a ground ball, and in live action, it looked like he beat it. They call him out. They have to review it, and they show the replay, and it is obvious that he beat it. And so UNA retains a challenge. Then McIntyre flies to left. We walk Loving. Even that count up at 2-2 after getting down 2-0, and I thought we kind of nibbled too much there, and thought we had a call, didn't get it. And then Jenkins hits a ground ball to second base. We forced a runner at second. So we get out of there, but traffic on the bases for Dodson. Bottom of 5th. Marshawn flies out to center. They go ahead and make a change here, bringing Howard. And he gives up a single from DJ and from the left side, and then Hines grounds into a double play. And so, again, DJ with a single there, but we got to be able to build upon that. We got to get all the horses pulling. We can't just have, 7, 8, 9 hidden tanks. We got to get everybody involved here. All right, top of 6. They bring in this Jensen. Let's face it, friends. We live in uncertain times. Security, probably more important now than ever before. That's why it's important to keep you, your family, your property safe by working with my friends at Eufy. That's EUFY.com. Let me tell you a little bit about this new video smart lock they have. It's super cool because basically you get a 3-in-1 security system here. You can have everything on just one device instead of having it outside of your house look rather tacky because you got all kinds of stuff out there. It's not just about your security, but convenience. No more concerns about losing keys. You can assign passwords to your family members, and you can see who's kind of coming and going. You got that integrated camera, too. It's easy to install. You can set it up with just a Phillips screwdriver. You don't have to go to a class on how to use power tools. No drilling required. You get keyless entry. You don't have to worry about fumbling with the keys when you're getting back with an armful of groceries, right? How convenient is that? That in and of itself is a great benefit. You got fingerprint recognition. It's unlocking. Got that AI self-learning chip. So the more you use it, the more accurate it's going to be. You don't have to worry about the battery. It's got a rechargeable battery that can last around 4 months. And you get a notification before it runs out, so you don't have to compromise your family security. You got passcode unlocking, remote control, 2K clear sight, camera. You can see who's at your door. You see these videos online all the time. Don't you think it's time for you to set something up so you can have the peace of mind of knowing that you don't have people constantly going in and out of your property? There's no monthly fee. Unlike other brands that charge you a monthly fee, you can have your recordings locally and never have to pay for storage. How cool is that? It's convenient, it's safe, it's a must-have for your home today. If you already have like a video doorbell, sometimes people want to come and steal your doorbell. You don't have to worry about with this. All right, so let's be sure to visit Eufy Video Lock. That's EUFY official.com/video lock. And it's time for you to gain control of your door. Again, that's Eufy. EUFY. Why are so many dogs suffering from health issues? Actress Katherine Heigl, who's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her personal foundation, says they're seeing more issues than ever with dogs' joints, odors, and their health than ever before. After doing a ton of research, she feels there's one place we can all look to improve our dog's health: their food. What she's discovered is that many dog foods are made in a way they can actually create toxins that could possibly be wrecking our dog's health. And that's true for many of the premium brands as well. Fortunately, she's found that just by adding a few special superfoods to her dog's food, she saw huge transformations in their health. She's made a 20-minute video explaining step by step how any of us can do the same thing to see incredible changes in their dog's health. I've got 5 dogs. I do. I love them. I spend most of my time with them. In fact, Mojo, my Mama Blue Healer, has helped me write 6.5 books now. I want her to be as healthy and happy as possible. So if you feel like you do about your dogs the same way I do, let me encourage you to go to badlandsfood.com/boneyard and watch Catherine's video right now. And again, that's badlandsfood.com/boneyard. Be sure and check it out and make sure your pet is happier and healthier than ever. All right, Bulldog fans, our friends from Tecovas want to remind you that it's festival season, it's concert season, it's sundress season. Yes, it is. And you know you need some nice boots to go along with every bit of that. And Tecovas is your stop for the best in Western wear. Tecovas has seasonal and limited edition offerings this spring and summer, including men's and women's boots, apparel, hats, bags, and so much more. All Tecovas boots are made by hand in a very time-honored tradition with timeless styles that are always on trend. And Tecovas has first wear comfort, so no break-in period. You know how tough that can be with a brand new pair of boots. You can put these bad boys on and ride that ride with a smile. It's hard to find this level of comfort paired with this same level of style. So stop by your local Tecovas store, have a complimentary beverage or two, shop the new styles, the smell of fresh leather, and a friendly staff are always at your service. Many stores even have leather custom branding to make your boots truly personalized. And with regular live music and events, there's no in-store experience quite like it. If you can't make it to a store, visit Tecovas. That's TECOVAS.com. They offer free shipping on all boots, as well as free returns and exchanges shipped right to your door. Go to Tecovas.com and find your new favorite pair of boots today. Yeah, I don't even know why he wasn't playing. Man, we just go raked against us. Jensen doubles down, pulls in the side of the bag on an 0-2 count. And my argument here is that I hadn't seen the pitching chart or the track man on this, but it's probably too much of the plate on 0-2. But give the kid credit. He yanks it down the third baseline for a double. Fry then pops up third, and Machado is hit by the pitch. We bring in Cam. Kind of a shaky outing for Dotson. Guy's got really good stuff, but still kind of found a sense of himself. Ninth then doubles inside the bag at third, and Jensen scored. Now it's a 2-2 game. Now we're all kind of like, we cannot lose this game. Now right now we're all thinking it's too late to call it. But goodness gracious. And then Cam kind of bears down here. He gets Johnson to strike out swinging, and then Lane strikes out swinging. And so the inning is over. And I thought Cam threw a little more of the traditional fastball yesterday too. When he's on, he's on. Bottom of 6, Amani Larry walks, and then still second. And they throw the ball into center field. So now Amani's at third. You have to get this run home. These are the kinds of things here that just drive you nuts if you don't come through. They bring the infield in and then elect to back the regular distance. And Logan Kohler hits one on the absolute screws. And the shortstop makes a great play to snare it. Amani stays on the bag, kind of hugged up close there. And if they're up, if the infield's playing up, that ball is clearly into the outfield. And who knows how far that thing goes. Kind of a tough luck thing there. And then Ethan Pulliam walks. And then Michael O'Brien, God bless that kid, he comes up and he hits a bouncing ball to the right side, and it hits Pulliam. All right, so O'Brien's credited with the hit, and Pulliam's out. It is a dead ball out. And I know people, like in post-game, some people are trying to say, but Steve, that's not the right call. It should be a fielder's choice. The fielder didn't make a play. The fielder didn't have a choice. These are the rules of scoring rules of baseball. If y'all want them changed, you make a recommendation, and you send it in and email them and say this rule should be changed, and then they're going to ignore you. Those are the rules of baseball. But, man, what a tough luck first hit for O'Brien, right? That your first hit ends in an out, and you're credited with a hit. That's how it works. And it seems like, you know what, there's so many things going wrong in this inning. Maybe it's not our day, right? Right? I mean, it's like they back out of the drawing the infield in, and then the kid makes a great play on Kohler's line drive, and then O'Brien bounces that ball and just bounces up and hits Pulliam. It's nuts, and you think, we're not going to get anything out of this. And Joe Pablo's like, no, don't worry, fam, I got you. Very first pitch is a towering shot to left field for 3 runs, and now everybody can kind of relax and breathe a little bit easier. Now it's a 5-2 ball game. They make a change, bring in Pingerton, and he gets Bryce to fly out to right center. But it's a 5-2 ball game now going to the 7th. Really good inning here for Cam. It's McIntyre strikes out swinging, Loving grounds out to second, and then Jenkins rolls it out to first, and Hunter grabs it and pitches to Cam, who covers. It's a 1-2-3 inning. And no strong contact. Everything was just kind of weak contact there. Bottom of 7, they bring in Justice Augusto to pitch. Great baseball name. Marshawn greets him with a double down the left field line on an 0-1 count, and then they throw it into center field again. This time the pitcher again. I don't know how that happens. It's almost like you wanted your shortstop to get into a defensive position because you can't even throw the ball back to second. Lob it back to second. It happened twice in the game. They throw it into center field. Both times have to be Marshawn. So he goes to third. And again, you have to get the run home. And we do. DJ flies out to right field. It's an RBI sac fly. So it's 2 real quality at-bats for DJ in the ballgame. That kind of gets lost, right, in the social media discussion. You're like, if he's not hitting a home run, he's not contributing. That's not true. This is the guy doing a job right here. This is the baseball play right here. Sure, you'd love the 2-run home run. At the very least, you have to do a job. And he did right here. Previous at bat, he gets a single. This time he gets an RBI sac fly. That's winning baseball. Then Hunter Hines walks. Lengthy at bat. He gets down 0-2 in this count and works, and he walks. Larry then fielder's choice there. They try to get 2 and they can't get it done. That ball goes to second, and they retire Hines, but they can't turn 2, and then Kohler strikes out swinging. But it's now a 6-2 ball game. Jensen stays in the game, right, for them. And what does he do on the very first pitch he sees? He doubles down the left field line again. Again, why didn't this kid play it? The good thing is that their season's nearly over, I guess. Maybe this kid will get hot for them in the Atlantic Sun tournament and get a chance to maybe impress some people. We'll see. Garrick Fry, who I like a lot, singles up the middle here. And then Machado grounds out to third. And Fry goes to second. Jensen comes around to score. He went first to third on Fry's hit. Ninth and singles to left center. Another runs in. It makes it 6-4. And right now we're starting to get a little bit nervous. It's like, Steve, I was feeling good about this. And now all of a sudden, fielder's choice. We forced a runner at second, can't get 2, and then Lane strikes out swinging. So, again, not the best inning for Cam. 7th was good, but I think the big thing here is, he's eating up an inning and saving an arm. We get to around play baseball again on Thursday. And Cam's a guy that can recover quickly. All right, bottom of 8. Pulliam pops up to the second baseman, then Michael O'Brien walks. Not a bad day for the kid. Powell then homers to center field. Nuts, man. And that thing was an absolute shot. Makes it 8-4. At this point, Mississippi State's going to win. It's just a matter of what the final score is going to be. Bryce flies out to right. Marshawn grounds out to first base. Got to get 3 outs here. Let's go get in the shower. McIntyre strikes out swinging. Loving singles to left field. Jenkins lines to right. And then Jensen, the guy that had been a burr in the saddle, or under the saddle, however you want to say it, strikes out looking to end the ball game. So Mississippi State wins 8-4. Doesn't get a lot of style points for it, but you don't get a big deficit in the RPI as many people projected. That's always big this time of year. You got to be mindful of all that stuff. Looking back at the numbers here, Bryce Chance 1 for 5 with a run scored. David Marshawn 2 for 4 with an RBI and a run scored. Dakota Jordan 1 for 3 in the game. Had 1 strikeout, had a hit, and of course the RBI on the sac fly. Hunter Hines goes 0 for 3 with a couple punch outs and a walk. Amani Larry 0 for 3 in the ball game with a run scored. Reached base courtesy of a base on balls. Logan Kohler 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Not a good game for him. Ethan Pulliam goes 1 for 3, also had a walk, so he reaches twice in 4 plate appearances. Michael O'Brien, 2 walks in the ball game and a single. He goes 1 for 2, scores 2 runs. Nice effort. And again, we talk about younger players. This is a guy that you're going to be excited about. This is a guy that's probably going to be a starter next year, whether it be in center or in left. This kid can really, really run. But the hero of the day was Joe Powell. 4 for 4, 3 runs scored, 6 RBIs. That dog a hunt right there, for sure. Very happy for Joe. Wrote a piece about his night this morning over at genespage.com. You can see that. read that and then see the video of Joe's post-game press conference for free in its entirety over at genespage.com. Pitching numbers, as we mentioned before, Nate Dahm, 2 innings pitched, no hits, no runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts, just 22 pitches, faced 6 hitters, and retired them all. 2 by fly out, 2 by ground out, 2 punch outs. Colby Holcomb goes 2 innings, allows 1 hit, the solo home run, and then 3 punch outs, no walks. Maybe that's a step in the right direction. Luke Dotson goes 1 1/3, allows 2 hits, a run. It was earned and 1 walk, no strikeouts for him, and also a hit by pitch. But a little bit kind of all over the place that second inning. Cam Schuelke credited with the win. Now 4-3 on the year, 3 2/3 of an innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts, 4 ground outs, a fly out. It's interesting. Cam was a pitch of record over the weekend too in that Saturday game. So Cam, here he is, adding up some wins. But we win the game. And listen, it shouldn't have been that close, but it was. Maybe we shouldn't have played it, but we did. And if we're going to play it, we may as well win it. And we absolutely did. And so now we look ahead to Missouri. We're going to preview Missouri on today's show because that series is going to start this weekend. Tomorrow. How about that? Tomorrow. So we get back together on Friday. We're recapping a game. All right. It's time for today's Top 10 list. As always, brought to you by closewithblair.com. Blair is my friend, your friend, our collective friend in the mortgage industry. And here's the deal, guys. You can entrust your mortgage into the hands of a lot of people, but not everybody is as scrupulous as they should be. A lot of people out there lending with questionable ethics. It's good to not get taken. Give Blair Chandler a call today at 601-500-2344, 601-500-2344. I don't know your needs. Maybe you're looking for a game day condo. That's always a good investment. Just about always, right? I mean, right? Wouldn't it be great to have a place here in Starkville? It'd be easy just to kind of cook and everybody gather there. You don't tailgate. It's just a little more convenient. Not to mention, you're thinking about retirement too, right? You're going to be downsizing. So wouldn't it be great to just relocate to Starkville full time, go to all the ball games? That sounds like heaven on earth to me. Or maybe you're looking to buy a home for the first time and you don't know where to go. Blair is the way to go. Closewithblair.com. Top 1% close ratio in the country, back-to-back-to-back years. 23 years of experience. You can do no better than Blair Chandler. He's a bulldog through and through. He rides the tide just like you and I do. Wins, losses. He's happy. He's sad. He's frustrated. He's exuberant, right? He's also really tall. It's true. And so when he carries a big stick. So when underwriting gives him stipulations for his loans, they think about it long and hard. They do. They do. Blair Chandler, let him be your advocate and get you into a new home today. All right, Chad Gomillion reached out last night. He was so giddy over Joe Powell's big 3-home run night. He goes, hey, Steve, how about a top 10 list around the number 3? 3 is a magic number, as we learned. The after-school specials, because Schoolhouse Rock, he's the king of the block. It's your favorite Schoolhouse Rock. So Chad said, okay. Better Than Ezra covered that. They did the tribute album to the Schoolhouse Rock, and it was very good. Better Than Ezra covered 3, it's a magic number. Didn't make our list, but maybe worth checking out. So here we go. Songs in the key of 3. Number 10, it's Sammy Hagar. I liked Sammy Hagar before he joined Van Halen. I enjoyed the Sammy Hagar years. A lot of people hate change. I'm a person that's kind of adverse to change too. But the only thing in constant in life is change. Van Halen elected to go with Sammy Hagar. They had a great run with Sammy. As we pop one open here. That's a Coke Zero in case you're wondering. But yeah, Sammy's got some good solo stuff too. And I went with 3 Lock Box from Sammy Hagar for number 10. Number 9, there is a great Hulu movie out there. I didn't get to see it in the theaters. I will watch the rest of it soon once I finish up the Bon Jovi documentary. Between all the writing and baseball, it's been tough to watch a lot of TV. I'm not a big TV guy anyway, but One Love with Bob Marley. I love the documentary of Marley's life and about how they tried to kill him, and all he did was try to bring peace in Jamaica. And very wise soul was Bob Marley. And 3 Little Birds makes our list today at number 9 from Bob Marley. The Bob Marley Legend CD, if you don't have that, and maybe you don't buy physical copies, maybe download that. A lot of songs you know, but such a cool vibe, right? Number 8, we've had this band on the show before, and one day I may cover this song. I like it, and it sounds, to be honest with you, I think the production value on this song is probably a little bit lacking, but the lyrical content is kind of interesting, and I love that guitar riff. It's from the band School of Fish. It's a great track called 3 Strange Days. Absolutely love it, and I've loved it for a long time. My former guitar player, Eric Carter, who last few years spent some time with a band out of Mobile, Alabama called Disco Kiss. They're all the rage, as he said. I don't think he's still working with those guys, but Eric turned me on to this, and I dug it. And it was a song that we considered covering. We didn't, but I still might go back and do it. Eric may be looking for work, right? Number 7, going back a few years, it's Tony Orlando and Dawn. It's Knocked 3 Times. Yeah, and then that song's kind of about some adult things, but it's very, very clever. Number 6, another band that we've had on the show, I think twice. So this will be their 3rd time, ironically, on the day of 3. It's Green Jelly's 3 Little Pigs. I think this song is absolutely amazing. I know other people are like, Steve, it's kind of silly, it's hokey, it's really cheesy. Well, so am I, okay? So am I. But I dig it, man. The video is like the little claymation stuff. It's nuts, man. I would say if you've never heard the song, watch the video as you listen to it. It makes it more entertaining. Especially the whole thing about driving a Harley and smoking on a Marley. It's great. Green Jellies, 3 Little Pigs. They were originally called Green Jello, and then the fine folks at Jello said, you know what? No, you're not doing that. Number 5, a great song from a great album from a very, in many respects, innovative band from the late 80s, early 90s. It's Jane's Addiction. Anytime we can work Perry Farrell in, it's a great thing. And I like the stuff he did with Porno for Pyros, but it wasn't as good as the Jane's Addiction stuff off Ritual, Deolo, Habitual. It's 3 days. It's a very, very long song. It's a wild ride in many respects, and really kind of got into this. Even though I had the album, I really got into Jane's Addiction after I got clean and sober. I really did. And 3 days is a song that one of my favorites from them, and it's a song that not a lot of people really know, but it's super, super cool. Number 4, a band that everybody knows. It's Matchbox 20. Many of you ladies have swooned over Rob Thomas. I think some of Rob Thomas's best work is as a solo artist, but I love the work that he did with Santana, with Smooth. I think it kind of showed Rob Thomas to be more than just kind of like the pinup guy, right? But it's 3 a.m. because you must be lonely. Like the song a lot. I like Matchbox 20. I think it's kind of radio rock friendly type stuff. One of my favorites from them is Bent. Do you know that song, Bent? It's great. All right, number 3. As a kid, I remember seeing this album cover, and I was kind of scared of it, to be honest with you. I was a young, impressionable youth. I had an uncle that was a guitar player in a band called Phoenix in South Mississippi back in the 70s, and they did local support for a lot of big acts. And my Uncle Warren was my hero, still is in many respects, and unfortunately he can't play anymore. He had a bit of a stroke thing some time ago and can't strum anymore, and I hate that for him. I really do. It's been a part of his life forever and a day. But the album was Bad Out of Hell from Meatloaf. And see, it's like you can't judge a book by its cover. Like when you see that album cover for Bad Out of Hell, it's like, oh, these guys must be satanic or something. And it's nothing could be further from the truth. But we're going to go with a great love song. It's 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Also, Paradise by the Dashboard Light. That's always fun. All right, number 2, a band that I absolutely love. And one of the things that I love about those old R&B, and they used to call them urban acts, and I don't know if that was right. But one of the things that I love and loved about the Commodores is they played their own instruments. A lot of those bands did. The Gap Band, Daz Band, all those bands that were real bands. They weren't studio creations, and they could pull it off live. They played their own instruments. Kool and the Gang, bands like that. Brothers Johnson. But the Commodores were legit, man. And even before they had Lionel Richie, they had some big hits. And they added Lionel Richie, and it just kind of ushered in a new era in the band. And many of their most memorable songs came with Lionel Richie on the mic. One of my favorite tracks didn't include him. It's Night Shift. But to meet our theme today, it's once, twice, 3 Times a Lady. It's true. 3 Times a Lady by the Commodores, number 2. But number 1, because I am from South Mississippi, proud to be from South Mississippi, because we learn how to deal with everybody when you live in South Mississippi. It's true. You do. You just, because listen, I grew up in a town and in a place in many respects where we didn't have a whole lot, nor did our neighbors. I mean, you learn to rely on other people. That's one thing that I love so much about Starkville. It's not in South Mississippi, it's in Mississippi, but the value system in many respects is the same. And what I mean by that is like you have a tire guy. You got an electrician. These people are like, they're not just a company, these are your neighbors. And it's like, hey, well, and we got a problem out here at the house. Oh, we'll call Joe. Here's Joe's number. Joe will take care of that. And the next thing you know, I got this, and I got a yard guy. This is a community in Starkville that people have learned a reliance upon one another. It's not just something that's so pushed by corporate greed and things like that. There's a lot of small business people that rely on each other to kind of get things done, to live life. But I am from South Mississippi, and where I'm from, the band Leonard Skinner, of course, is really just kind of like one step below, the David's choir and Psalms. I mean, it's like there's Amazing Grace, and then there's like Simple Man, right? I mean, I'm just kind of telling you for what it is. It's Southern rock in many respects. And one of my favorite songs, of course, is about Ronnie Van Zant being down at a little place called The Jug with a girl named Linda Lou. We're talking Give Me 3 Steps, a song that I've sung many times at karaoke. Love songs that tell a story, right? And Leonard Skinner's story is one of tragedy in many respects, but also one of redemption and courage and legacy in many respects. A lot of people have some problems with Leonard Skinner, and that's fine. That's a you problem, not a me problem. And real quick, I just want to say this, because I've read some things on social media. One of the things that I have learned to do in life is live and let live. Like, I'm not responsible for you. Now, I'm also not responsible for the decisions that you make or how you live your life. You are responsible for that. You, not me, you. And I'm responsible for me. And here's the thing. I'm going to live my life the way that I live my life, and I'm going to do my best not to infringe upon you, and I'm going to ask the same of you. I'm going to ask that you do the same thing. You do what you want to do. It's like the old, I can't remember which movie it was, but it's like, there's kind of 2 kinds of crazy, right? There's a guy that goes out there and wears a lampshade on his head and howls at the moon. And then there's a guy that does it in your front yard, right? And so the first one you can kind of deal with. The second one you got to handle, right? And so I shared that because I see some people on social media, even some people in journalism, and one of the things that I'll say about that is the readers of unbiased journalists have no idea who they voted for. Does that make sense? What I mean by that is, and we got some people even in my industry that, and I have spoken to some of them privately and said, hey, you're a friend of mine. However, I want to make sure that we get this. Guys, nobody cares who you voted for. They just want to read the sports column. That's it. That's your role in life. I'm a sports journalist. Okay, well then keep your politics out of it, because nobody cares to read that. There's plenty of political commentary out there. We go to sports to try to get away from some of that stuff. And then I read the stuff, I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to have to deal with it, right? But I am secure enough in my beliefs, whether they be religious or political or business or personal or romantic. I am secure enough in who I am and what I believe that what you say is not going to trigger me. Because my beliefs aren't based on somebody's blog or a hashtag. It's not. It's based on life's experiences. This is what I have experienced. This is what I have gone through. These are the experiences that have formed and melded my belief system. And if it is truly my belief system, you can never make me question that. Now, one of the things that I pride myself upon is being willing to listen to other people, even if I initially believe that they're wrong. And so I don't expect the whole world to be like me, but I think we would be in a better place if more people were when it came to that. I am perfectly okay with you being wrong. I have also opened up the door to understand there are some things that I may be wrong about, and that perhaps I need to listen and do some of my own research about. But it is so interesting to me that there are so many people out there that it's like we wear our flamboyance so incredibly arrogantly. It's like we wear it like a badge of honor and we dare anybody to say anything. Okay, that's not real belief. That's narcissism. That's what that is. And that's a misnomer in so many respects. Like if somebody ever stands up for themselves and creates boundaries in life, oh, that's narcissistic. No, this is just what I'm willing to accept. Well, that's narcissistic. No, what's narcissistic is blowing everything up and wearing your feelings on your sleeve. So when somebody challenges your feeble belief system, you can then play the victim. That's narcissism. And there are some other definitions of that. But that to me, you talk about textbook insecurity, that's it. It's like I'm going to get out here and say what I want to say, and if you don't believe me, then you're wrong. And not only are you wrong, I'm going to label you because you're going to be this, and you're going to be this, you're going to be that. All because I have a varying viewpoint. Because you have closed up the box and say you are 100% correct and there's nothing anybody could ever say to change your mind. I respect people that hold true to their values. But if your values are so fragile and rooted in such weak soil that you get so triggered that you got to block people on Twitter, I don't dare hear any dissenting voices. That's how we learn. That's how we learn, listening to other opinions. And we can have a civil dialogue with some level of discourse as mature adults without getting angry at each other. It's okay to be passionate. The things that I love and believe in, I'm very passionate about. But I also open up some room to the possibility that maybe I'm not as well researched on a topic as I should be when I have these strong opinions. And when I was in my 20s, I was so incredibly judgmental. So incredibly judgmental. I couldn't wait for the argument because you're going to have to beat me in the argument. And even if in the end I came around to your line of thinking, it became so personal to me, it became a you versus me instead of a clash of ideals, right? And it's one of the things in recovery that I prayed about regularly. Because I did not like that about myself. And to be honest with you, it's some people that loved me that kind of pointed that out to me. It's like, Steve, it's like it's a nuclear war with you. You get into these big arguments, and it's like you want to holler and scream, and you make people feel bad about themselves if they don't agree with you. And there's still some of that I'm still working on. It's all a progress, right? It's a pursuit of health. But the disappointing thing for me is it's not the 20-somethings out here that are creating all the problems. It's people of my age and people in my own profession. And whether they be sports journalists or just journalists as a whole. And one of the things that, and again, I get a little pet peeved about this, to be honest with you. There are a lot of people out here who are reporters masquerading as journalists. Much different dynamic. He said, but Steve, they're all the same. Well, all journalists are reporters, but not all reporters are journalists. We got a lot of people in sports that are just reporters. They never break a story. And it may not be a situation, and I don't mean breaking a commitment, right? Breaking a commitment, more times than not, the kids do it these days too. But as far as, I give Ross Dellinger a lot of credit. And Ross and I haven't always agreed on everything. But I love Ross, and I love Ross's work. And it makes me very proud to see a Mississippi State guy up here breaking national college news. And you know what else? I have no clue who Ross Dellinger voted for in the last presidential election, and I don't care. It's a big difference, right? But Ross Dellinger is a true journalist. There are other people out there, they'll go write you a 500-word recap of a ball game, and they've reported the news to you. They hadn't broken any news. They just kind of reported what happened. There's a difference between that. And then there are other people out there that they are journalists, but however, they're not unbiased in what they do. There's a lot of clickbait type stuff here. It's like, I'm going to go write this and be an agent provocateur because it's the only way that I can generate engagement. The work alone is not good enough. So I've got to go out here and be pithy, and I got to attack one side or another. That's not journalism. That's activism. It's a big difference. And I loathe that aspect of my profession. And listen, when I know something, I can't wait to make sure you know it too. But then you can decide what you want to do with that news. You can decide how you want to interpret it. I'm not going to judge you either way. It's just my job to give you the news, good, bad, or indifferent. And we all have sources, but it's so interesting how so many people out there, and I've spent way too much time on this, it's so interesting that people only seek out sources that reflect what they feel and see and want to experience in this echo chamber of emotions. It's like, oh, well, what's really going on here? Let me call up the people that think like me. Here's the thing, even when I wrote Flim Flam, this is something you may not know, all the people that were involved in that notice of allegations for Ole Miss, we fought very hard to get those names released. And I contacted each and every one of those people whose names were mentioned that I could find. And I'm probably a better researcher these days. I could probably find them all now. But there were some people I couldn't find contact information. And some of those people went underground, right, when it went public. And there's some people that blocked me on social media. And I'm the wolf, right? I get it. But I contacted those people knowing that they were, in many respects, involved in things that were improper, people that had been dishonest in some respects. I hate to paint anybody as a liar because I think there's a difference between a person who lies and somebody that's a liar. Like at some point we all are dishonest about things, but there are some people that they would lie even if the truth was better, and some of those people fit this category. And so I share that to you. As uncomfortable as that was for me, I contacted them all, and of course none of them wanted to talk. I also filed an open records request of Ross Bjork's emails that mentioned my name, and I have them. And one day we'll release them. But many of those people that I contacted Bjork and said, hey, Steve Robertson contacted me, asking me about this. And so here's the thing, too. It wasn't to make anybody feel uncomfortable. And maybe that's not totally true. But it was also to give those people an honest opportunity to tell their side of the story. And I knew it was going to be nonsense. But I still provided them the opportunity to do that. Now, I could have just called all the people that were saying, hey, these people are all dirty and cheaters or whatever, and paint with all a broad brush because of the fact that's what I believed. But I gave them the opportunity. They just elected not to take it. But I can rest in every word that I wrote, knowing that I handled this with ethics, and I did not have this finite view of what the facts could be. You'd be amazed at what you can learn when you listen to people that don't necessarily think the way you do. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. Man, I love Campus Bookmart. I do. I love going in there. I wish I could win the lottery and just go buy it all up, right? I've got a lot of cool Mississippi State stuff in my house. I bought a lot of cool stuff from Campus Bookmart. You should too. Whether you're outfitting your fan cave, your living room, your office, your home, your RV, your pets, or just your wardrobe, you could all use some new Mississippi State clothing apparel. Mom, let me tell you this. When the kids get ready to go to Disney this year or to Gulf Shores or wherever you go down in the Redneck Riviera, they're going to want some new Mississippi State gear. And you're going to want to wear that MORS hat with pride. Dad needs a new state ball cap. He won't tell you that because it comes off like a want, but it's a need. Mom, log on to campusbookmart.net right now. Pause the show, log on, do some perusing, make some purchases. Not only are you outfitting the family, you are supporting a Starkville business, which is always a great thing. We encourage you to go by and see their smiling faces, but campusbookmart.net is your online source for Mississippi State merchandise. And by being a listener of this show, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That's BSR. It stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. Get you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than 75 bones, absolutely incomplete. All right, let's take a look now at the Missouri Tigers. That series begins tomorrow. I will wake up with a smile on my face because I know that I get to cover college baseball. It's true. All right, let's look at Missouri. They open up the year out at San Luis Obispo. Isn't that fun to say? Say it with me. San Luis Obispo, California. And they take 2 out of 3 from Cal Poly. They lose 3-2 and then win 3-1, 12-8. So good start to the season. And then they're out in the Tony Gwynn Legacy Baseball Classic. They take down CSU Bakersfield and then lose to San Diego State, lose to UC San Diego, and then they battle back in the 4th game and take down UC San Diego 5-4 in 11 innings, and that's in La Jolla, California. You Westerners will have to kind of keep me up to date on that. All right, they come home, play 8 innings against SEMO, the Fighting Cardinals from Cape Girardeau, and beat them 8-3 in 8 innings, an abbreviated game there. They went ahead and called it. If you were in attendance, you were fortunate enough to get a scheduled magnet. Yeah. Northern Colorado gets some, I guess they lose to SEMO 8-3. Then they lose Northern Kentucky 3-1. And then I don't know what happened to Northern Kentucky pitching on Saturday. I don't know. But the Tigers put up 28 runs in a 28-10 game that lasted just 7 innings. You average 4 runs per, you win the ball game. Northern Kentucky battles back and wins 16-15, which says a lot about the depth of that Missouri pitching staff. Midweek game against Lindenwood, they take it 5-4, as do the Tigers, and then Purdue Fort Wayne. A team early on that we talked about on the show, about did you even know there was a Purdue Fort Wayne. We've got some friends from Indiana that listen to the show that have talked to me about them. They beat Missouri 9-7, 9-7, and then on the back end of a Saturday doubleheader, Missouri gets a mercy ruling 11-1 win over Purdue Fort Wayne, and then on Sunday, it's 20-2. So when you factor in these runs scored, remember there were 2 games, they scored a combined 48 runs. They go to Kansas, they go to Lawrence, and they beat them 5-4, a rivalry game. I'd rather see Kansas and Missouri play basketball, to be honest with you. And then we get into SEC play. And they get absolutely shelled by Arkansas. They score 1 run on a weekend and get beat 8-0, 6-0, and 9-1 in Fayetteville. We know Fayetteville. We should have won a series there. Tigers then meet Kansas again. They're in Kansas City, Missouri, and they lose 4-3 in 10 innings. We get into Kentucky, and it is another losing weekend, this time in Como. They lose 9-4 in 11 innings. Kentucky closing strong there. They beat Kentucky on Saturday 2-1 and then lose 7-6. So a 1-5 record to open SEC play. They lose to Illinois and Saugat, Illinois at Grizzlies Ballpark 11-3. And then they get Vanderbilt. At the time, Vandy was 9th in the country, and Vandy brings the Missouri Tigers to Nashville and beats them. And these games were low scoring, but they really weren't competitive. 3-1, 4-0, 3-1. So just 2 runs on the weekend again. And now you look up, the Missouri Tigers are 1-8, and people are kind of leaving them for dead. They win a pair from UT Martin 13-3 and 15-9 on a Tuesday-Wednesday affair against the Skyhawks. And then Florida shows up. And Florida's ranked 4th in the country at this time. Now, a lot of these early rankings from Florida deserve an asterisk because of the fact, I think Florida is trading access for rankings. I believe that to be true. And what do you know? The Tigers sweep Florida 2-1, 4-3, 11-10. So 3 one-run games all in favor of the Missouri Tigers. And you look up and say, you know what? Missouri's improving. Maybe Florida's not who we thought they were. And then immediately after that, Missouri loses to Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville. Yeah. Anytime that you lose to somebody, there's an "at" in their name, it's tough. A directional school in Illinois wins in Como 5-4. Then they go to Athens, Georgia. lose 2 out of 3, 15-10. They win 6-5 on Friday and then lose 10-7. But you feel like, hey, you know what? Hey, they've won 4 of 6, and now you've got 5 wins in the SEC. Is Missouri going to finish last in the conference? Are they going to make Hoover? They take down Missouri State in Springfield 6-2, and then they get LSU up there. And you're thinking, you know what? LSU is struggling. Como has proven to be a little bit difficult place to play for some SEC teams. Maybe the LSU Tigers go up there and lose the series, but they don't. The Tigers take it 2-1. 12-1 Mercy Killing on Friday. They lose by 1 on Saturday, 8-7, and then LSU bounces back to win 6-2 to take the series. And then it's another game against Missouri State, 10-6 winners. They head to Knoxville, Tennessee, which has kind of been a house of horrors for many people, but give Missouri some credit for making most of these games close. They lose the opener 10-1 and then lose Friday and Saturday 3-2. So competitive games, in Tennessee was number 3 in the country, and Tennessee may win the SEC when it's all said and done. They need some help, but certainly a top 8 national seed, and have kind of flown under the radar. You know, Tony's a guy that kind of likes to be in the spotlight, but this year I think they've been content to let Arkansas and Kentucky be the front runners, and they just kind of quietly going about their business. Missouri then takes care of Lindenwood 13-1, and then it's a series with South Carolina and Como. And I'm not sure what to make of the South Carolina team, other than I don't think they're better than Mississippi State. They get Mizzou 10-2, then lose to Missouri 8-3, and then bounce back in the rubber game May 5th to win 9-4. Auburn heads up there last weekend, no midweek game. And you start thinking, okay, this is a battle between the 2 last-place teams in the league, the last-place team in the East versus the West. It's in Como. I think some people favored Missouri. I think Auburn just has enough pieces to make it interesting. Mizzou wins game 1, 12-11. Kind of a wild deal there. Auburn had the lead and blew it late. Auburn bounces back the next day in a mercy rule game, 12-2, and then Auburn wins the rubber match, 9-7. No midweek game again this week for Missouri. And so you look up now and say, okay, well, what does all that mean, Steve? Well, the Tigers are 22-30. They would have to make it to Hoover. In order to do that, they have to sweep Mississippi State and then hope Ole Miss sweeps LSU. So with an LSU win, they're eliminated. With a Missouri loss, they're eliminated. And so they're still mathematically alive. The probabilities are not very realistic. They're 8-19 in the conference, which is good enough for last place in the East and next to last in the overall standings. They're 15-14 at home and 6-14 in true road games, 1-2 on a neutral field. In SEC games, they're 1-11 on the road. 1-11. Of course, the one win comes at Georgia in that middle game. Let's look inside the numbers here. Together, hold my hand as we go together. Let's take the leap. All right, as a team, Missouri is hitting just 257. And there are only a couple players there's only one regular that is hitting 300 or better, and he is hitting a cool, crisp 301. That's Brock Daniels hitting 301, and he's played in 33 games. Of course, they played 51. Trevor Austin is kind of the guy that kind of the straw that stirs the drink up there. Trevor Austin wears number 19. He's got 11 doubles on the year, 11 home runs, and 31 RBI. And again, this is not a team that scores a ton of runs. Jackson Lovich hitting 290, got 8 tanks on the year. Jackson Beeman, a little bit down, kind of a part-time guy. He's got 6 jacks for himself. But one of the things you look at, losing teams here, they run the bases. Not especially proficient in stealing bases, but they do put pressure on you. So we're going to have to be very sound in the running game. They have 78 stolen base attempts on the year. They've been successful 60 times. And so probably a team that's going to get, if they do get on base, they're going to test us in that respect. So we're a team that leads in pickoffs. And there's one guy in particular, I won't mention his name. Every time that we have a caught stealing, he goes on Facebook and says we lead the league in pickoffs. We do, but it's not in the way that you think, sir. It's the number of runners that we have picked off that leads the SEC, not how many times we've been caught stealing. It's not the same thing. You're misunderstanding me. It's a good thing that Mississippi State leads the league in pickoffs because we're picking them off. If they were picking us off, it would be caught stealings. So different scenario. We need to be elite when it comes to holding runners this weekend. Jarrett Curtis is 14 of 17, and Brock Daniels 11 of 14. Drew Culbertson 10 of 12. So it's not just a one-man show by any stretch of the imagination. We talked about those runs scored. Looking at this, as a team, they scored 310 runs. And remember, 48 of those came in 2 games. A lot of tight games, though. There's some toughness in this team, even though there's not a lot of talent. That's important to understand. They're going to show up in Starkville with something to play for. Right now they're thinking, we got to go in there and sweep, give ourselves a chance, and hope that Ole Miss can help us. On the pitching side of things, as a staff, it's a 5.89 ERA for the team. And you start working through the numbers here. Logan Lunsford, that's a guy we know that we'll see. 13 starts on the year, ERA of 7.35. These are all overall numbers. We'll look at some SEC numbers before we move on from this. But outside of that, it's been kind of back committee, to be honest with you. Daniel Whistler has 7 starts. Javen Pimental has 10 starts on the year. But you look at these numbers, I mean, it's 88 hit by pitches. Yeah, 88. And it is something that is prevalent throughout the staff. It's not limited. Of all the pitchers, and they have had a ton of them, only one guy hasn't hit a batter this year, and he has worked a total of 0 innings. Yeah, he's had 1 appearance on the year, and the only guy that hadn't hit a batter. Everybody else has hit batters, and you got 3 guys in double digits, and Bryce Meyer right there at 9. That's a lot. They have allowed 74 home runs on the year. They have trouble keeping the ball down. Carter Rustad is a guy that pitches a lot, part-time reliever, part-time starter. He's worked a staff-high 61 innings. He's allowed 12 home runs. Lunsford is allowed 13. Bryce Meyer, we keep mentioning his name, Bryce Meyer, he's allowed 10. Batting average against is always an interesting number here. 266 against in their non-conference schedule was a complete joke in many respects. And so, again, this is a team I think that's going to struggle to score runs if we don't help them. That's one of the main things. We cannot help them. Let's look at some SEC numbers. We'll start with pitching and go to hitting. Conference numbers, pitching-wise. Daniel Whistler has started 1 game, appeared in 3. He has not allowed an earned run, but he has allowed 3 runs. You look at the starts here. Brock Lucas is a guy that we'll see as a reliever. He's made 10 appearances this year, ERA of 5.14, 13 Ks to 16 walks. That's brutal, man. Brutal. That's a tough way to live when you're walking more than you strike out. Logan Lunsford has been probably their most consistent guy, 39 Ks, 24 walks in SEC play. He has worked 42 1/3 innings, which is the most on the team. Carter Rustad just behind him at 41.2. But Logan's SEC ERA is 7.02. Rustad's SEC ERA 8.42. So your 2 workhorses are not getting people out. As a staff, they're 6.35 earned runs in the SEC, and they've allowed 50 home runs and only hit 15. So not a team that's going to have a ton of power, but a team that's willing to give some shots up, and it should be the weather should be home run conducive this weekend. They've walked 114 SEC hitters and struck out just 214, so you're right there at 2-1. You'd like to be 3-1 or better, but a ton of extra base hits. I mean, you look at the numbers here, they really kind of jump off the page. They've allowed 244 hits. 106 of those are extra base variety. So nearly half of the hits allowed go for extra bases. And that's a terrible recipe when you're a pitcher. It's tough. You're hitting people, you're giving up a ton of extra base hits, and SEC opponents are hitting 266. Let's look at some hitting numbers here, and then we'll get to our fielding stuff and then kind of get ready to move on here. But SEC hitting is a team that is hitting 224. That's brutal, man. 224. And looking at the numbers here, they don't have a single regular hitting 300 or better. Danny Corona's the closest thing to it, hitting 298. And he's a guy that's kind of a part-time starter. Trevor Austin, 27 SEC games. That's all, right? He's hitting 280. But just 15 home runs against SEC pitching, that's tough. It really is. And so if somebody just doesn't run into one, we got to be in pretty good shape. Also interesting to note to the stolen bases, 20 of 32 in SEC play. And they've allowed 25 stolen bases in 30 attempts. And so that's always interesting to look at. As a team, fielding percentage, looking for the obvious weaknesses here, right? It's not just about the team numbers. Drew Culbertson has 6 errors. Justin Colon with 6 errors. And as a team, they've made 27 and opponents only 25. And that's only in conference play. So you start thinking an error per, and you look at fielding overall here. And again, they've been somewhat better in SEC play, but Drew Culbertson, 12 errors overall this year. But he's just a freshman, freshman from Greenwood, Indiana. So you'd expect there to be a learning curve there. But as a team, overall, 47 errors on the year. And again, that's about 1 per. It's a little bit less than 1 per. Let's take a quick look, again, at the standings as we get ready to kind of move forward here. Because I got some things I want to talk about in the final segment with you guys that not relate to college baseball. Looking at the standings right now, again, Kentucky, a game ahead of both Arkansas and Tennessee in the overall standings. And then Kentucky will host Vanderbilt this weekend. It's an interesting dynamic in many respects. Tennessee, 19-8, and again, a top 8 national seed in every aspect, in my estimation. They will host South Carolina. Now, South Carolina last week was kind of right there with us. They're now 2 games behind us now in the SEC standings, thanks to the sweep at the hands of Georgia. Now, Georgia is now a game ahead of us. We were 5th in the SEC alone. Now we're 6th behind Georgia due to that sweep. And Georgia going to host Florida this weekend. Florida's 11-16. Florida's also a team that's fighting to get to an NCAA tournament. And there were many people, including myself, that thought they would win the East this year. 11-16 overall. And then now 26-25. You got to have a winning record. You do. I don't make the rules. This is kind of how it is. Missouri, of course, 8-19. 2 games ahead of Auburn for last place. I'd love to be able to help Auburn out this weekend. Like if we could sweep Missouri and then Auburn could then in turn win the series against Alabama, then they would hold the tiebreaker. They would make Hoover, but they wouldn't be in the cellar alone. Now, in the West, Arkansas 19-8, Texas A&M 17-10. They're just 2 games behind Arkansas. So that series is going to be at A&M. Weather may be a factor down there. So A&M has got to sweep Arkansas to win the West. And again, a lot of people have Arkansas behind A&M in their projections, which I don't fully get. They have the same overall record in Arkansas's 2 games up against SEC competition. So A&M gets the series lost this weekend. State could catch A&M for 2nd in the West. I think we need a sweep, and then we need Arkansas to sweep them, assuming that they play all 3 of the games. But it's possible. I don't know how probable it is. 3 games behind Mississippi State in the standings is Alabama. A lot of people thought they may be in contention to host, but they are not. Ole Miss 11-16. Even with a sweep this weekend, that's 14 wins. And what's interesting about this whole Ole Miss dynamic too, we talk about you got to be over 500. They're 27-25 overall. They get swept this weekend. It's a losing record headed to Hoover. They will be in the field at Hoover. But then you go 1 and done there. It's a losing record for the year. And you're out of the tournament. I think Ole Miss is in a very precarious situation. A lot of people, RPI. Yeah, look at overall record. Look at 11-16. Nobody thought Ole Miss would win that series against A&M last weekend except for the guys in that Ole Miss clubhouse, and give them credit. But they got a tough road to hoe this weekend going down to Baton Rouge against a team that's desperate to get into the tournament. And Bianco always finds some magic in May. So I won't be the least bit surprised if Ole Miss wins a game down there. But that's a really tough place to play this time of year. I mean, it truly is. But you know what? 2 years ago, Ole Miss went down there, won the series, and that was really the difference in them getting in the tournament and not. And again, they're not going to sneak up on LSU after what they did to A&M last week. I think I could pick apart every one of these teams, to be honest with you. There are some things about each of these teams that is concerning. Like we talked about Arkansas starting pitching. You may not have heard this, but Arkansas is shaking up their weekend. Hagen Smith's going to stay on game 1, and then Gage Wood's going to throw game 2, and they're TBD for Sunday. And State kind of exposed Brady Tiger and Mason Molina. It wasn't just like, something overnight. It's been kind of trending this way for a while. But to be honest with you, even though last weekend series went the way of Arkansas, I would rather be in Mississippi State's position as far as team composition right now than Arkansas. State's beginning to find some things and get some other pieces in place. And now here you are, if you're Arkansas, a team that's projected to be a top 8 national seed, and you're having to toy and tinker with your rotation the last weekend of the regular season, that doesn't bode well going into postseason play. And I like Dave Van Horn. I think Dave Van Horn might be the best coach in America. But all that I understood, I would rather be in a situation where I'm beginning to get some things settled rather than having to stir things up. That's just me. All right, team batting average, Tennessee still leads the league. Not a big surprise there. And then 6th in the league is your Bulldogs at 285. How about that? Did you know that? Missouri, this weekend's opponent, is hitting 257 as a team. That's last in the league, and just above them is Ole Miss. Yeah, it's true. It's true. All right, team pitching. Arkansas still leads the league at a 3.46 ERA, even though Mississippi State helped the pack a little bit. And then your Bulldogs are 4th in the league in team pitching. Did you know that? Did you? I bet you didn't. Last year, Justin Parker had South Carolina as the number 2 ERA team in the conference. But now Mississippi State, probably with a much bigger turnaround, is 4th in the league, ahead of LSU, ahead of Vanderbilt, ahead of Kentucky, ahead of South Carolina, ahead of Georgia. All these teams that were supposed to be so great on the mound, State's outperforming them. Now, we got to shore up some things in the bullpen, and maybe Nate Dome gives us the ability to do that. But, the numbers are the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. When you're giving up 4.3 runs a game, you got a good chance of winning. You do. All right, team fielding percentage, and you know what? Your Bulldogs still tied for first with Arkansas. How about that? And Arkansas has actually made one more error than Mississippi State. They just have had a little more opportunity here. But the percentage is 982. How about that? 982. Among the best teams in college baseball when it comes to defending. And, it's like, again, familiarity breeds contempt, so we're around it all the time. We think, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way. Yes way, Ted. Yes. All right, looking at individual batting numbers here. You wouldn't know it to read some of the social media commentary there, but Dakota Jordan, 6th in the SEC with a 370 batting average. 6th. 6th. Not 6th among right fielders or outfielders, but 6th among all players, hitting 370. And some of our fans would say, well, he's having a bad year. No, he's not. He's not having a bad year. He hit 9 home runs last year. He's got 17 this year. Driven in 60 runs. He's got all SEC numbers, man. And if you want to start counting RBI, like if I'm not mistaken, he's like 3rd or 4th in the SEC in RBI. I'd have to go back and do the numbers myself. But and not too far behind Dakota Jordan, in 10th, is Connor Hyzak, hitting 349. A couple spots behind him, Dave Mershon, hitting 344. So you got 3 Bulldogs right there kind of near the top of the SEC hitting statistics. How about that? And then pitching-wise, of course, Hagen Smith still leads the show there, but you get a little deeper. 5 and 6, Cal Steven and Gerangelo Sanchi. There we go. I mean, again, the numbers are the numbers. And here's your RBI numbers. Dakota Jordan, 4th in the SEC in RBI numbers. Braden Montgomery still leads at 77. Charlie Condon at 72. Jace Laviolette with 69. And then there's Dakota Jordan. And just behind him, Slade Alford with 59. How about that? How about that? It's true. But it's interesting. It is. And Dave Mershon now still 2nd in stolen bases behind Cooper Weiss of Auburn. Weiss has 27 of 33. Dave Mershon, 23 of 25. So we'll get out there and make some things happen. We will. And so I share that with you because, again, it just continues to show the turnaround at Mississippi State. We talked about that so many times. You need players. Well, we got players. Probably need a couple more. If we'd had, say Luke Holman and Braden Montgomery come, it's probably a different conversation altogether, right? Not just with ERA, with team batting average, but in wins, right? All right, real quickly, let's go through the SEC schedule. Of course, there is no non-conference play as everybody's getting ready for the final weekend of the regular season. Again, Florida's at Georgia. I like Georgia to take the series. I'd love for Florida to win the series because I would love to be the number 5 seed. Of course, State sweeps and Arkansas sweeps, then maybe some other things can be possible. But I think they were asking a bit much there. I think Florida takes a game here, but I like Georgia to win, especially playing at Foley Field. South Carolina's at Tennessee. I like Tennessee here, and I won't be surprised if Tennessee sweeps. I think South Carolina is a team that maybe is not as good as some people have suggested. That's just my opinion about it. They may get a game. I like Tennessee to win the series, and I won't be surprised if Tennessee sweeps. Vanderbilt's at Kentucky. Vanderbilt is in free fall. Kentucky is fighting for the number one overall seed in Lexington. Not to mention playing for their second ever SEC championship. It'll be a raucous environment in Kentucky, and they're built to play in that ballpark. And with Vanderbilt pitching having some issues, I like Kentucky to win the series. I do. And kind of going back to the Tennessee-South Carolina thing. Tennessee knows they need to sweep this weekend to have a chance to win the SEC. Alabama's at Auburn. Auburn played better last weekend, should have swept. Alabama wins the series over LSU. I like this Alabama offense. I like some pieces of the Auburn offense. It's tough to win on the SEC road. I think it's a split. And I'm going to pick Auburn. I'm going to pick Auburn at home. Ole Miss is at LSU. I think Ole Miss is good enough to get a game. It's a launching pad down there, so Ole Miss will probably hit some home runs, and LSU pitching has not been nearly as good as people projected it to be. LSU takes the series 2-1. Missouri comes to Mississippi State. I've been covering Mississippi State baseball a long time. There's a lot of times that we should have swept and we didn't. I feel confident we get 2 out of 3. And I think there's a good chance that we sweep. I just don't know that I can project that. If we sweep, I think we absolutely host. If we take 2 of 3, you need some traffic to kind of clear around you. I think we're okay, though, especially with the RPI only dropping a couple of spots, because you're going to finish in the top 6 in the SEC. And SEC traditionally gets, 6 to 8 spots. I think State's in a good spot. I think if you sweep, I think there's no question you host. If you win 2 out of 3, I think it's you probably need some help. You need some of your contemporaries around you to probably lose. Arkansas, of course, is an A&M. I like Arkansas to win on Friday on game 1, and then the rest of it we'll see. I think it's tough to go on the road and win in the SEC. I think A&M probably gets 2 out of 3 from Arkansas, but Arkansas hangs on to win the SEC West and not catch Kentucky. I think the only team that's probably capable of catching Kentucky right now is Tennessee. That's how I see it. You may see it a little bit differently, but that's how I see it. Let's take a quick look at some RPI stuff, too. Let's, real quickly, and kind of go over your rooting interest here, right? I'm looking at the D1 Baseball Rankings RPI. And so they have Mississippi State at 18. So we dropped from 16 to 18 in the D1 Baseball RPI. Kentucky's number 1. Tennessee is number 2. Georgia number 3. Arkansas number 4. Well, we played 3 of those 4 teams. We on a win over A&M, 2 over Georgia, 1 over Arkansas. And so that's helped us tremendously because of the fact we have some wins over their schools. Of course, North Carolina we're not going to play. Tennessee either. Clemson at 7, Wake Forest at 8. Florida State gets upset last night. They only dropped to 9. Indiana State holds true at 10 there. And I think Indiana State probably deserves to host because you need some mid-majors every now and again to grow the game. But and it's the obvious choice. Alabama's 11 in the RPI. And of course, we have 2 wins over them, and they are not in a position to host. You're not going to host at 15-15. It's not going to happen. And so that's another spot, when you begin to kind of calculate what's ahead of you here. What's interesting, too, is we always focus so much on the RPI. When you begin to look at State's record against Quad 1 is 12-11. So you got a winning record against Quad 1, some of the better teams in the country. Teams like Oregon State have only played like 3 or 4 games against teams in the top 50. East Carolina, I think you got to give these guys some credit. That big gaudy series win over North Carolina has kind of carried them, but they're in one of the worst conferences in college baseball, and it hadn't been great. And I would love to be paired up with them in a super regional because I think we can go in there and win that thing. Virginia is at 13, and again, some of these teams ahead of us are going to play head-to-head this weekend. I say some. Wake Forest has a big series. Virginia has a big series. Oregon State now at 14. UC Santa Barbara at 15. Oklahoma at 16. I think it's going to be tough to keep them out of hosting. I don't think they rise into the top 8, but they are a Power 5 league champion with an RPI in the teens. I think it's going to be tough to keep them out. Oklahoma State right there with them, along with Mississippi State. South Carolina is right behind us at 19. We don't play them, and so there's nothing we can gain from them winning. NC State's right there at 20. And, of course, NC State, big ACC weekend this weekend. So some of these ACC teams will eliminate each other. We just need to take care of business, and we're going to host. But I would feel so much better about it if we could get 3 this weekend. Final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Just Google Stark Vegas Clubhouse. It'll take you where you want to go. Pretty simple in that respect. When you Google that, their Facebook page will come up. You can see the many pictures that kind of illustrate all the amenities that are available to you when you book the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. 5-bedroom, 2-bath, 5 minutes from the Mississippi State campus. So close, so convenient, but kind of tucked away too. And we have some privacy and some peace of quiet, right? Got really just one neighbor out there. We don't want you throwing a rager, but you can go have a great time with friends and family, whether it's a guy's weekend, a girl's weekend, a couple's weekend, maybe a staycation. You're coming to town for work. Maybe you don't think about that. It's like, hey, we got to bring a big group to the Golden Triangle for a work event. We're going to be working around the area. And rather than go out there and get 5 hotel rooms, why not get the Stark Vegas Clubhouse so you can have some communal areas to kind of meet and work, but then everybody has their own private quarters. It's a great opportunity for you, whether it be work or play. You can book through multiple options. You can go through Airbnb. You can go through VRBO. However, if you book through the Evolve website, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That's BSR10. That gets you 10% off your stay. Just by listening to this show, you can save 10% off your stay at one of Starkville's best venues. Super cool, right? I've been out there. Some friends of mine have used the place. It's absolutely fantastic. We've even had some former Bulldog football players use it as a draft night or draft process facility. Maybe you're not that highbrow, but you just need a nice place to get everybody together. And how cool would it be to get all your college friends together and just say, hey, we're going to take in some ball games, but more importantly, it's just kind of reconnecting together as people. What a great place to do it, all under one roof. Because you don't have to worry that Bob is across town at an Airbnb and you cannot answer in his text or whatever, or so-and-so took a nap and now they've not charged their phone. Everybody under one roof. Super, super cool. The Stark Vegas Clubhouse. All right, last few minutes we have together. I want to share with you guys, too, I'm in the final stages of the writing process of roughing out the book, The Dude, The Life and Times of Dudy Noble. In many respects, it's not just about Dudy Noble, but about Mississippi State history, kind of a pre-World War II, and then we'll get into some 50s as well. But yesterday I wrote about 1943. We didn't play sports in Mississippi that year. The State College Board elected to suspend all college athletics programs. Of course, Alan McKean stayed on. Some of our coaches enlisted in the Navy. It was a lot that went on there. But one of the moments that kind of struck me yesterday in 1943 is, my son Ian just finished up his freshman year at Mississippi State. He's a young guy, right? And these guys on these 41, 42 football teams, they were young guys too. And from small town Mississippi. And here they were battling on the football field, to bring Mississippi State glory, or to win a bowl game or get the golden egg. And in 39 we go 8-2, and 40 we go undefeated. Crazy. Win the Orange Bowl. 41, we win the SEC. And 42 is supposed to be a rebuilding year. We go 8-2. And the next thing you know, Alan McKean has to basically give varsity letters to everybody because of the fact that we didn't know what the future holds. And so in 43, we don't play. The thing that really struck me yesterday, though, is, we think about World War II veterans like when we met them. Right? For many of us, it's like, they were old men, hardened by life, part of the greatest generation. But it really struck me yesterday. What would it feel like today if, World War breaks out and then, Creed Whittemore's got to go fight in the European theater? Or Josh Hubbard has to go, man a machine gun in Japan. And it sounds so silly, right? But when you think about what's happening in the world and you think about our young people, you begin to realize, too, that it was a special time in many respects for all the wrong reasons. These were uncommon men, and that's the title of that chapter, Uncommon Men. Many of them from small-town Mississippi. Many of them had not even crossed the state lines until they became a student athlete at Mississippi State. They were asked, and in many respects kind of expected, to enlist in a service. I can only begin to imagine how traumatic it had to be for those families. And I go back to the 1941 season. We play San Francisco, and we beat the Dons on December 6th, 1941. And you don't have to be a history buff to know what happens next. And your team found out they had an opportunity to go to Los Angeles and go to Hollywood and see all the sights, and it was a sightseeing tour, and it was a celebration. It's like we go all the way out there to Frisco. At least we got to go check out Los Angeles. And they get the news that Pearl Harbor has been bombed once they got to L.A. That America was under attack. Many of them came back, finished up their studies, and immediately enlisted in the armed forces and went out and began to defend our way of life and to protect the world from absolute evil against a madman. Guys, in many respects, that were just a couple years away from helping farm to family farm just to keep the family fed, are out there fighting to save the world. And we weren't alone, obviously. We had Mississippi State players, Ole Miss players, players from all around the country that volunteered to go join the service and say, you know what, hey, I'm going to go stand up for my homeland. We're going to go avenge the deaths of those brave men and women that perished at Pearl Harbor. I had an uncle who was on the USS Arizona. He and his best friend jumped as a kamikaze airplane came in. My Uncle Ellis lived, his friend did not. Ellis had to help salvage his friend's body and get it to shore so that the family could have a proper burial. And you begin to think about that in hindsight. They were just kids. They were young men. And again, they were uncommon men. And I began to think about how much pride I have in writing that chapter and telling those stories, because many of those players of yours went out and fought all over the world and defeated Nazi imperialism, and then came back to Mississippi State as much different people. But they came back and finished their college education and their college careers. And I share that with you because of the fact, too, there's just so many things in life today that didn't make a lot of sense to me. Again, at some point, I'll age out. But if I've never said it before, allow me to say it now. To all of you from that great generation that stopped what you were doing and took up a rifle or drove a tank or worked in the supply chains or whatever to save the American way of life, thank you. Thank you. You did a job most of us wouldn't have wanted to do. And you were ripped away from your families and your homeland and faced a very uncertain future. And most of you did it voluntarily. I cannot articulate in the moments that we have together today, how much incredible respect I have for those men. One of them, who is written about in the book, was my neighbor. He was a third-team running back behind Blondie Black before the war. His name was Eagle Motlich. So he's not just a name in a box score to me. He was my neighbor. Never had a chance to talk to him about this sort of stuff. I remember the first time that I met him, I saw that he had a Mississippi State license plate on his car. I said, "Oh, you're a Bulldog fan." And he grinned at me and said, "Yeah, you could say that." Found out in time that Eagle Motlich was a great football player at Mississippi State. I'm very privileged to have known him and met him and resided under the same blanket of freedom that he provided, and to know that he was one of ours. And so for all of our men and women that are in harm's way today, and for all of those that preceded them, that did a job I did not want to do, to enable me to do the job that I chose to do, thank you. And to all of you who go to bed every night hoping you don't get a phone call, hoping you don't have somebody show up at your house delivering you bad news, our thoughts and prayers go out to you. It's true. And I know at some point you kind of settle into a routine, but the routine that you guys are forced to grow accustomed to is foreign to the rest of us. It truly is. You know, my wife, running the spa there across town, if I want to go see her, I can get the car and go. You know, she comes home to me every night. It's a privilege and an honor that you have afforded me. And I thank you for that. I truly, truly do. And for all of you, the families that you go to bed each night and you say your prayers and you teach your kids, hey, keep daddy safe, keep mom safe. I want you to know you're not forgotten, and your sacrifice to our nation and to our people sometimes gets washed away in all the rhetoric out there. There are two groups of people that I probably hold in higher esteem than others. People say, you know what, Steve, you shouldn't divide people by class. Well, I do. I do. I am incredibly grateful to the American farmer. I am incredibly grateful to our veterans and to our active armed forces and military. You guys are the real heroes in life. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.